Hey, how's it going? This is Dave. Before we get the show going, it just dawned on me that I did my whole show and I didn't mention the one thing we're doing here in November, which is we are doing a poll of everybody listening, and that is, what is your favorite podcast? Now, if you go to schoolofpodcasting.com/contact, you can actually go over and click on a button and record it. If you want to record it there in your studio and email it to me as an MP3, that's fine too. But put the phrase favorite podcast in the subject line, and here's what we're looking for. You can only listen to one. Let's pretend you're on a desert island. You can only subscribe to one. What is it? Tell us about it. Tell us where we can find it. And more importantly, why do you listen to it? Why is this your favorite? Then tell us about your podcast, if you have one, where we can find it, and a little bit about it as well. We're going to take all these, transcribe them, give them away as a little PDF, as well as play them on the very last episode of this year. So, and I do plan on turning this into a Kindle book as well, so you can be part of that as well. But get those in, because I'm only accepting them through November 2014 for this edition. Thanks so much, and now here's me telling you about today's show. Today on episode number 435 of the School of Podcasting This Morning announcement, we've got a last 5 and 5. We've got a podcast rewind. If you've been worried about that whole patent troll thing, never mind. And I'm going to review the Simplecast podcast media hosting company, and we'll see if they stack up against my criteria. We're also going to talk about two things that you can use to easily figure out if you should talk about it in your podcast. Hit it, ladies.
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Oh, podcasting since 2005. I am your personal podcast coach. Yeah, me, you ready to go? And I've been doing this since 2005. Here's what we do. We talk about all things podcasting, from planning to promoting and all points in between. I bring my 20 plus years of technical training to the microphone. I help make things easy to understand. That's the plan. And we get you on the road to pain-free podcasting. Our website is schoolofpodcasting.com. That's where you can find everything you need to start a podcast. And if you want to start a podcast, it's super easy. Use the coupon code LISTENER, LISTENER, when you go over to schoolofpodcasting.com. And one of the great things about the schoolofpodcasting.com is our awesome, we have a private Facebook group, and it's really, really cool. And you get to hang out with really cool people. And one of them is David Hooper. And we have a segment, if you're new to the show, it's called A Last 5 and 5. Now, what does that mean? It means what were the last, well, here, let's let her explain it to us.
And now it's time for A Last 5 and 5. What were the last 5 podcasts you listened to?
Yeah, so not so much your favorite 5 podcasts, but what were the last 5 you talked to? And this is from David Hooper. Now, I've known Dave, man, a long time. And if you go over to redpodcast.com, Dave is an author, he's a speaker, he's a music event planner back in the day, and really good guy. And he is called, now, the thing I say about this is he used our toll-free number, courtesy of podcastvoicemail.com, which is 888-563-3228. And if you're listening on the podcast app, if you just press on the album art there, you'll see the number come up. You can just click on that and send it on in. Now, poor Dave kept getting cut off, or I don't know if his cell phone dropped or what, but man, Mr. Tenacity, I really appreciate you calling back in and in and in. And so here is Dave's last 5 and 5.
Dave Jackson, David Hooper here, Red Podcast, redpodcast.com, and I'm calling in a last 5 in 5, the 5 podcasts that I've been listening to.
So I want to say, I'm not sure where Dave was, but there was a lot of, when you use podcast voicemail or really any other Google Voice, a phone is going to sound like a phone. I tried to clean this up a little bit, and but I'll be talking over it. I'll make sure that you hear what he's saying.
And this is a list that I think will be helpful to podcasters, and I'll explain why as I go through them. First of all, there's a great podcast involving crowdfunding. It's called Funding Your Dream. Richard Bliss is the guy. And I'm listening to that because I'm in the middle of a Kickstarter crowdfunding product. And it's really fantastic for anybody who's interested in trying to go the route of crowdfunding to get money for whatever it is that you do. Funding Your Dream with Richard Bliss. I'm trying to get better at storytelling, so I've been enjoying Serial, not like the food, but Serial, Serial, NPR's podcast.
If you haven't heard about this, we've talked about this in the last couple of weeks, how important word of mouth is. I heard Elsie Escobar on the Feed, or it might have been She Podcast, mention how she was addicted to cereal. Now, cereal, again, is not their great, not that kind of cereal, although the podcast is great. This is about a woman, and this is, Dave, we're going to put you on pause for 2 seconds, all right? Check out Dave at redpodcast.com. It stands for the record, Real Entrepreneur Development. But this Serial podcast, I heard people talk about it, and it's a woman who I believe has some sort of legal background, or she's a reporter, or both. And she was contacted by a family that said, look, we know this guy that has been convicted of murder, has been in jail for like half of his life, and he didn't do it. Can you please look into this? So I've always said there are different types of podcasts. One of them is a journey podcast. Journey, and by that, again, I don't mean don't stop believing, but where you take the audience along with you. And I always use the example of Joanna Penn from The Creative Penn, who started off wanting to know how to write her own book and be an independent author. And now, so she interviewed all these experts, and now she is the expert on independent writing. And this is an amazing show. And I'm calling my shot right now. If you haven't listened to Startup yet, this is the same thing. And I've never listened to This American Life. I think I listened to 2 episodes and kind of went, meh. I like Radio Lab, but these are highly produced. I mean, the guy from Startup, I think, is just carrying around a portable recorder 24/7. But Serial is a great example because you're going along with the host trying to figure out, did this guy really do it or not? It's really cool. And again, I'll put links to these. All the podcasts that Dave mentioned, Funding Your Dreams with Richard Bliss, Serial, and the other ones he's going to mention here, I will put out. Go to schoolofpodcasting.com/435, and you can see those. Let's continue on with Mr. Hooper.
About storytelling. I think it's been fantastic, man. It's kind of a murder whodunit mystery. I'm sure you've heard about it by now. Everybody probably has.
It's awesome.
And people who did do This American Life, really, really good. To learn more about interviews, one of the things that I'm listening to right now is Dr. Drew's show, not the one with Adam Carolla, but just the Dr. Drew show. He's not the best host in the world, but I think as far as interviews, he's great. I think that he asks some very thought-provoking questions, not the same old questions you'll hear anywhere else. He's well-read. He is very educated, and I think it's something to strive to with coming up with good interviews that actually get an audience to think.
And I'm going to pause you there. And this is what's cool about podcasting. I always say podcasting is time-shifted conversations. Dave, if you like Dr. Drew, go to WTFpod.com. That is Mark Maron's show, WTF, and we all know what that stands for. He interviewed Dr. Drew, and Dr. Drew kind of gets a bad rap because he did the whole celebrity fit, whatever. They would go to celebrity rehab. That's what he did. And the one guy died, and everybody was like, Dr. Drew was profiting off this guy's death. And you really get a behind-the-scenes look at how Dr. Drew really is just trying to help people. He really seemed, I had a totally different attitude after listening to that. So, again, I'll put a link to that out in the show notes at schoolofpodcasting.com/435. But if you're a Dr. Drew fan, that was a really interesting interview. And that's one of the reasons why Mark Maron's podcast is one of the top. Great questions, great interview.
And get an audience to participate in a way more than simply just passive listening. And for solo podcasting is something that I have been trying to get better at. And to learn how to do that, I've been listening to a little-known podcast, Building a Better Dave. I think you do a fantastic job of that. It sounds like you just turn on the mic and just let it roll. And I'm actually really curious about what the process is for building a better Dave. I love the personality that you bring into it, and I'd love for you to talk more of that on this podcast, School of Podcasting, because I think it's well done. It's been an inspiration to me as I'm trying to do more and more solo podcasts, no co-hosts, no music, no interviews.
All right, well, I will do that. What he's talking about, it's a podcast I do called Building a Better Dave. You can find it at betterdave.com, and I have shared parts of my life on that show that are ridiculously intimate. And it was originally started, I was going to start dating again. I had been divorced for a while and had gotten up the nerve to start dating. And I thought, well, there'll definitely be some fun stories along the line here. I originally was going to start working blue. Like I was going to be like, lots of double entendre, things like that. And little did I know that the third person I started dating, I would end up marrying. And it's very sporadic. It used to be me talking about my life. Now, if you're new to this podcasting thing, I will tell you this. Be very careful about sharing stories about your family. Like, I would love to talk about the ups and downs of my marriage on that show, and that's not a good way to stay married. I'll just leave it at that. I have in the past. I have paid the price for that. And as much as you have decided to share your life, your family has not. So be very, very careful about that. And that's why it's hard for me to find content for Building a Better Dave. And in some cases, it's a very strange show to do. Now, how do I decide what to do? Well, here's my criteria for that. I want to make you laugh. I want to make you cry. These are all laugh or cry, think, or in some cases groan. And then I know there are other things that always kind of come in handy. One of them is behind the scenes stuff. Anytime you can share behind the scenes stuff, I'm going to be interviewing Kate from Kate's Take. You might remember her or recognize her. She is the second half of Entrepreneur on Fire. She's the person behind the scenes, and she started a podcast that gave all the behind the scenes stuff of Entrepreneur on Fire. Man, was that an entertaining podcast. It was stuff that you couldn't get someplace else. So Dave had phoned this in, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't done a Building a Better Dave in a long time. And so I gave a behind the scenes story of how I'm probably going to join, I think, what will be my last band in 2015. I've been approached, and that episode is called Chasing the High. And it's an interesting show. I think I try to make it, but that's my criteria: laugh, cry, think, or groan. Now, Dave, you're right. There have been times when Building a Better Dave, I don't think about my audience. I'm not really worried about the content. And in some cases, that podcast is therapy. That's just me being an hour away from most of my friends and just needing to talk to somebody. And I would just vent or rant or whatever. When I was going through, when I went back to school, I was just listening to one today about how my psychology class, they really wanted me to deny the existence of God. That was like day 2. Like, by the way, God's out of the picture. And I was like, what? And so it's usually stories that have gone on. And as I looked at them, they're usually me looking back at things. And so if you want to, now let me point you to the people that inspired me. Dan Class, who has been podcasting since 2004, does a podcast called The Bitterest Pill. And what's really interesting about that show, when I first started listening to it, his daughter was 2. And now she's like 12, if not more. I know his son is in high school now. And it's weird because I've listened to him. He's a stay-at-home dad. His wife works. He's also does work. He does commercials and stuff. He's an actor. He was a comedian. And he's a great storyteller. It'd be interesting to know if somebody who started listening to his show now would get as much out of it, because I feel like I know Dan. So it's interesting. But I try to, that's my criteria. I try to have, am I going to make you laugh, cry, think, or groan? In fact, if you go to betterdave.com, I actually made categories, and I categorized the show. So if you want to laugh, there's some in there where I talk about the fact that when you go to like some restaurant and people come over to sing your birthday, and you can tell that the birthday singers have been there for about 7 hours, and they're like, hey, it's your birthday, shoot me in the head, that kind of thing. They're not really into it. But I hope that gives you some insights. And some people are like, how do you talk to yourself? Well, right now I'm not talking to myself. I'm actually talking to you. Now, for the record, I know I'm talking to you, but in my head, I'm talking to David Hooper. and you're kind of eavesdropping in a little bit. But I'm also talking to you because I know you, the one with the earbuds, is probably thinking, how do you do a solo show? And I always tell people, I remember Dr. Nina, who does Win the Diet War. She's like, I'm like, just picture your best friend ever and picture them sitting across the room from you. You have something exciting to say or a story that they've asked about or whatever it is, and you're going to relate it to them and just talk. Now, you do want to bring a little energy. Try to bring a little voice inflection. I was talking on Ask the Podcast Coach this week, and Billy Delaney called in, and I said, what I usually try to do without being fake is I take it to obnoxious DJ voice, right? So if I'm talking like this, hey, how's everybody going? All right, today we're going to talk about redpodcast.com, and then back it up just a little bit. So now I'm talking about redpodcast.com, and I try not to be so inflection that, some people almost sing their podcast because they're adding so much voice inflection when they talk that it sounds like, it's weird. And here's the other thing. When in doubt, practice, practice, practice. So thank you so much, Dave, for that. I'm glad you like the show. BetterDave.com is, if you want to learn about Dave Jackson, it's an interesting glimpse inside of the weird mind of Dave Jackson.
It's a good podcast. BetterDave.com to check that out, of course. And finally, SchoolOfLaughs.com has a great podcast. It's by a guy I know named Rick Roberts, and it's really, really good for anybody who's trying to get into the entertainment business. He's a comedian, does about probably 200 shows a year, does a lot of corporate events, a lot of speaking events. So if you're into speaking, if you're a comedian, if you're a musician, if you're an author, anytime you're doing live events and you're trying to get people to your shows, he's got some great advice for that. And as a comedian, he also has some really great advice as far as writing and coming up with content. I think it's a fantastic podcast. I haven't heard anything like it. It's called School of Laughs. Worth checking out. Appreciate the work you do, Dave, and I hope to see you on the road soon. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Hooper. Again, find him at redpodcast.com. Super nice guy. Back in the day, I drove to Nashville, Tennessee. Dave has a radio background. That's where he said he's not used to doing solo stuff because he's always had like a co-host or he's interviewing people. And he does, I think he still does, music business radio. I'll have to go back and check. And I kind of cut out a lot of my music stuff that I used to listen to. But he was on the radio, like the real radio kind of thing. So that's kind of cool. So thank you so much, Dave, for tuning in. And again, that was Funding Your Dreams, Cereal, not the kind you eat, Dr. Drew Show, Better Dave, and School of Laughs. That's your last 5 and 5. Thank you so much, Mr. Hooper.
In case you missed it, it's time for a podcast rewind.
All right, one of my favorite podcasts to create isn't even really mine. It is podcastersroundtable.com, and this is by the one, the only, the magical, the mythical Ray Ortega, where you can also find him at podcastersstudio.com. And Daniel J. Lewis and myself tag along on that one. Daniel J. Lewis, of course, from the Audacity to Podcast.com. And we did a podcast, an episode, a round, as Ray likes to call them, on the law. This is a must listen. Podcastersroundtable.com, I believe, /38. I'll have a link to it again in the show notes, schoolofpodcasting.com /435. And it was really hard to pick a clip because we talk about music, we talk about copyright, but this is the one I was like, okay, I want to share this one with you. And because we had two lawyers, one on patents and one on kind of entertainment law. And check this out. If you're worried about the whole, people are getting sued about this whole, patent thing and podcasting's using the patent and CBS lost a lawsuit and had to pay them much. Listen to this.
One other thing that's interesting, that this patent is so old, it's going to expire in about 2 years. So this is not something that's going to be around forever because it's sort of unique old patent, and they were then recently able to get this protection. The fact is they filed this application around 18 years ago. And patents only last 20 years from their filing date. They
lose it. Can they re-up this, or they lose it in 2 years? It's just gone.
No, they lose it. It's gone. It's unlike a trademark. that can be renewed. It cannot be renewed.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's encouraging.
That's beautiful noise. Yeah.
Tie him up in court for 2 years, but that costs a lot of money, right? So hopefully you won't have to do that.
So there you go. So if you've been worried about it, this whole thing's going away in 2 years, whether or not they win their case or not. But yeah, that had Gordon Firemark, Greg, I believe it's Gronholm, Ray Ortega, Daniel G. Lewis, and myself. And I was actually calling from a hotel room in Detroit. I was out doing some training last week. And go over to podcastersroundtable.com, sign up for the newsletter there, and you can be notified, because those actually happen a lot of times with very short notice. Like, hey, we're doing something tomorrow night. Come and check it out. It's great. The chat room there is awesome, and it's really cool stuff. One of the things I said at the beginning of the year is there are going to be more and more tools, more and more services for podcasters. And I came across another one, and I think eventually I'm not going to be able to keep up with these. And we'll talk about this when I get done talking about this. There comes a time when you just kind of like stay happy with what you got. And it's called Simplecast.fm. And it's interesting because for $12 a month, now this is a media host. So this would be somebody that is in competition with Libsyn and somebody that's in competition with Blueberry and, I would say SoundCloud, but SoundCloud doesn't meet my criteria. And if you're like, Dave, what is your criteria? Well, I've said this before, and I'm not going to get super deep into it. If you go to schoolofpodcasting.com/media hosting, you can see this. But basically, number one, do not mess with my file. What I upload is what I want to download. So what I mean by that, don't change my file name. Don't change my format. If I upload it at 128 stereo, I don't want to download it 64 mono. What I upload is what I download, and don't mess with the information inside the MP3 file. They're called ID3 tags, but it's this little information that's in that. That's step number one. Number two, don't limit the size of my audience. So unlimited bandwidth. Number three, don't limit the size of my catalog. So if I want to have 434 episodes online, I can have 434. I don't run out of space. Number four, don't take control of my feed. In other words, if I want to leave, I want to be able to leave and take my audience with me. Number five, give me some stats, preferably accurate ones. That would be great, so I can kind of see what's popular and I can figure out what to continue doing and maybe things not to do anymore. Number six, how about some support? Look, podcasting can get kind of scary. Things change all the time. New things come on board, new features. I want somebody to talk to go, hey, what does this mean for me? And I'm not looking for 24/7 phone support, but I'd like to be able to send off an email and get an answer sometime within 24 hours. That's all I'm looking for. Anything above that is gravy, but I want to be able to get an answer. And last but not number seven, I want you, and this is where people go, really? I want you to charge me for your service. And they're like, why? Why don't you want to do this for free? Because of places like Podango, like places like Mevio. There are a couple other ones that have tried to do free media hosting. And they found out that apparently when you don't charge for your service, it's not a really good business plan. And so I went and checked out Simplecast.fm because they have, it looks really cool. They've got, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited storage. They've got stats. They've got, they can import your feed. I'm like, okay, this sounds like, let's go see. So I logged in. They have a 14-day trial, and it was super easy. Everything worked as planned. Really nice, easy interface. And I just took some old files from a Logical Weight Loss podcast that I had, and I uploaded it. Worked fine. They give you a little code there that you can put your file on your website, a little player. And I will say their player has something that's pretty cool. Number one, it has a 30-second rewind button that I haven't seen on any other player. That was kind of new. And they had the ability to play it like at multiple speeds. So you can sit there and listen at 1x and click a button, and now you're at 1.5x and 2x. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool, because I can't remember the last time I actually listened to something at 1x. And so their player was kind of cool. They did have some things that were completely different than I've seen in other places. And one was called managers. Now, what this is let's say you're the talent, right? You are the host, you're the producer, but you want other people to do all the editing and all the uploading and things like that. So what you can do is you can add other people to your account that can go in and add episodes. They can edit the show notes and things like that, but they can't delete anything and they can't delete your podcast. They're called managers. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Thinking outside of the box, because there are more and more people that they just want to record it and then they'll farm it out to somebody who does all the editing and the ID3 tagging and things like that. So that was kind of cool. And you can use them for your website. And this is nothing new. Both Libsyn and Blueberry have a way that if you want to use their website for that. And for the record, you could, but not really the prettiest of websites. Not ugly, but And the same thing here. The Simplecast website that you make is okay, but they do have an interesting thing where you can upload banners for sponsors and assign that banner to appear on certain episodes. Now, there's no tracking. There's nothing like that. It's just an easy way to put a banner at the bottom of your episode. And in theory, you could make those banners be subscribe buttons. And so it was okay. I mean, again, we're talking a really basic website. So in theory, you could spend $12 a month, use Simplecast as your website host, and have, they have unlimited storage and unlimited bandwidth. Now, here's the interesting thing. So let's get into the things that I kind of go, So the question would be, Dave, do you recommend this company then? And my answer is no. And you're like, why? Well, number one, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited storage, meaning according to their website, and by this I mean there isn't any documentation. There's no little asterisks. I mean, at least SoundCloud gives you an asterisk that says, okay, when we say unlimited uploads, we really mean up to 30, whatever it is, gigs a day or something like that. They have no asterisks. If you want to upload 60 gigs, go right ahead. There's nothing on their website that would say, oh, you can't do that. And they also have nothing about bandwidth. It just says unlimited bandwidth. Well, here's the thing. Put yourself in the shoes of the business owner. How did you come up with that $12 a month plan? You've got to have an idea of what's going on with that. Because all it says on their website is don't worry about bandwidth and storage costs. It's all included in your Simplecast package. Okay, that sounds good and all. But I say your media host is the blood of your podcast, right? When people click on a button, you want it to stream, you want it to download. And to me, just saying, it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. Well, I am going to worry about it. Why? Because I'm putting my eggs in your basket, and I need that basket to be around without you going, oh, we had to go out of business because it turns out everybody's uploaded, 100 gigs every day. We ran out of storage space. It's a lot more expensive. Or they're going to jack your prices up on you. I'm like, there's got to be a limit. That's a bad business plan, in my opinion. And that's all that is. So, okay, so that had me worried. But then I uploaded a file and downloaded a file, and this is where things got bad quick. They changed my file name. So instead of being, LWL _ the date, it was whatever the name of the post was. And then a number that made no sense to me. Okay, so he changed my file name. Well, okay, is that like a deal breaker? Not really, but I'm not happy about it. Because, again, there's a reason why I name my files a certain way. They're easy to see that that's my file because it has some sort of little LWL in the case of Logical Weight Loss. If you download a School of Podcasting file, you see where it says SOP 435 is what this one will say, and you whack that. So, there are other companies that don't whack my file name, and I'm holding you to that standard. Number two, they changed the format. So they're saying unlimited storage. Why? Because they're going to whack everything down to, if you're doing a music show and it's 128 kilobits per second without super geeky, that's somewhat basically CD quality, they will dumb it down to mono, 64 mono. Okay, you change the format. Again, you're not letting me download what I uploaded. And they almost got the ID3 tags, but they don't copy over my comment, and they missed the year or something weird. So, okay, you changed my name, you changed my format, you changed my ID3 tags. Okay, now some people might say, I don't care about that. Okay, because they did have the album art. They didn't lose that, which is good. But here's the thing. I sent them an email because all over their website, they're like, click here to send us a message. We would love to hear from you. Where if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. So I sent them a message. I do this to anybody I test. And I said, what's the deal with the unlimited bandwidth, unlimited storage? Because I'm confused on this. This is just a bad business plan. Can you expand on that? That was 7 days ago. And I never got a response. And so I have video of this. If you want to check it out, go to schoolofpodcasting.com/435. But because they changed the name, because they changed the format, because they changed my ID3 tags, and because apparently they have no support or they went on vacation, because it looks like there's two guys running the show over there. And I'm sure they're fine guys and they might be, but for me, I'm like, look, that's my criteria. And that's why people go, really? You only recommend Libsyn and Blueberry? And I go, yeah, that's it. Because they don't change my file name. They don't change my format. They give me stats. They don't limit the size of my catalog. They don't limit the size of my bandwidth. They let me change my feed. They give me stats. They give me support. And if I ever want to leave any of those guys, they can do that. So they had a lot of them, but they horked my name. And their support was somewhat not handy. I was reading an article on contentmarketinginstitute.com, and the article said great content meets two criteria. And then basically you have to ask yourself, well, does mine? And I was reading this, and they go into super deep, the psychology of the Kano mode, yada, yada, yada. And it basically boils down to this. You ready? Is your content useful? Is it? Is your content useful? Like, can people do stuff with your content? Now, for the record, well, let's get into the other one. Then the other one is it interesting? Because there are some things that I will listen to that are not useful, but they're interesting. Like, for instance, the Serial podcast. It's not really useful. I don't walk away from that show going, man, I'm so glad I listened to that 45 minutes about a guy whacking a girl and throwing her in the trunk of his car. Now I know how to whack a girl and throw her in the trunk. No, it's not useful information. It's useful that it made me forget my day. It made me, I don't know, it Calgon, take me away, right? It's useful in that end, but what it really is it's really interesting. It's really interesting. So you have interesting, but not useful. Then you have useful, but maybe not that interesting. So when I'm talking about simplecast.fm, you're like, boring. Yeah, but it's really useful. Why? Because it's going to save you from using the wrong media host. And you will thank me later, trust me. When you have 100 episodes and you have to move those bad boys, hoofa. Right? So not very interesting, but useful. Then you have the other one, not interesting, not useful. That's what I like to call a caca, a poo-poo. And so this is somebody that's talking about something and maybe there's not a lot of energy to it. And I'm going to tell you about my love of bungee cords. And do you know how many things you can do with a bungee cord? It's really cool. You can use them as hangers. You can make your own clothes rack out of a bungee cord. And somebody's going, hey, that is useful. Hold on, Dave. But you get the point. So there's not interesting, not useful. So you can look at your podcast and just ask yourself, is this useful? Yes or no? And if you say no, is it interesting? Is there a way that you can do this in an interesting fashion? And so, a couple of weeks back, I interviewed the internet troll. Okay, that was really me. But to me, having people deal with rude comments on their website, I've talked about it in the past. So I was like, all right, this is useful information because I don't want people to get bummed out when they get somebody that writes, crap on their website. So how can I do that in an interesting way? That's really is it interesting? Is it useful? And I'll put a link to this out in the show notes again, schoolofpodcasting.com/435. But if you think about it, one of the things I used to do, especially when you're starting out, if you're a brand new podcaster, here's something I used to do that I don't do anymore. Things that I used to do. Oh, Lord, I don't do no more. There you go. A little Stevie Ray Vaughan for you. And one of them is I used to do a show 0. And this is where I would go, hi, this is Dave Jackson. This is episode 0 of the School of Podcasting. And here's a little bit about myself. I'm a technical trainer. I've been teaching people technology for over 20 years. And in the future, we're going to talk about things like how to choose your microphone, how to choose a media host, how to build your website. And it's all this, here's the stuff that's happening in the future, in the future, in the future. Not very useful. And interesting, do we care about me? No, because you just met me. So in that instance, an episode 0 is neither interesting or useful. So I don't do episode 0s anymore. In fact, I'd say the opposite. Come out swinging and say, hey, this is useful and it is interesting. And you might want to lead off with, why should I listen to you? Maybe you've been doing marketing for 15 years and you've, been around the globe or whatever it is that makes you you. Okay, that is helpful. And it is interesting, especially if you can do it in less than, an hour. If you could do that in like 2 minutes, tell me who you are and why I should listen to you. And then get into the useful, interesting topics. There's your episode 1 that are going to make people go, oh my gosh, have you heard this podcast? So 2 criteria to get your podcast going. Just ask yourself, is this useful? And is it interesting? And if you can do both, awesome. If you can do 1 out of 2, that'll work. But the one you don't want is not interesting and not useful. Well, speaking of useful things, you know what you could do? You can do a thing called the Quick Start Plan. Let me play you a little clip here from my new best friend, Troy.
Hi, Dave. This is Troy.
Hey, Troy.
It's Friday evening, and I simply wanted to call in to share a ringing endorsement of your Quick Start program.
Thank you.
We exchanged Quick Start emails early in the week, and today I just uploaded our first episode of the Forever Fan podcast. ABC shows Forever. It's pretty awesome, and my wife and I are sitting down at the microphone and talking about it now. She's keen to do it, and it's fun to share that with her. All of that's over at foreverfanpodcast.com. You helped to get it started, and when we ran into something we didn't know, the 3-month at the School of Podcasting helped us to find what we needed. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Troy. Again, find him at foreverfanpodcast.com. And if you're like, what is the Quick Start Plan? Well, number one, if you already have a website, I need to say this up front, it doesn't work. What it works for is people like Troy who have sat down with his wife and his co-host or whoever is going to do, it's fun. Every time I go over here, he's got new stuff on the website, Forever Fan Podcast. And let's listen to a little bit of Troy. Let me turn up his volume on this, and let's listen to what does it sound like? What does somebody's very first podcast sound like? All right, like the music. Let's turn him up a little bit.
Welcome to the first ever episode of the Forever Fan Podcast.
Sharing forever together. My name is Della.
And this is Troy.
We are a happily, married couple of 21 years. And it was actually Troy's idea to have the tagline being sharing forever together, because it's sort of a play on the fact that we were sharing forever together before the television show. Now, because we're watching the television show named Forever.
And loving it. Yes,
I would say loving it. Yeah, I think that's a true statement.
We are fans.
That we thought that would be a fun tagline.
But all right, we'll leave it at that. So there you go. You can start a podcast. And the Quick Start Podcast is simply this. You send me an email with the phrase Quick Start in the subject line. I send you a link with a coupon where you can get 25% off your hosting, and you go over and order it. Now, you're talking like spending $8 here a month. And then when you sign up for that, now you do need a name of your show and a website address. And you can go to things like schoolofpodcasting.com/domain check to buy your domain name, or you can actually just buy it from the company that does the hosting, either or. And you send me the welcome email that says, hey, welcome to the hosting company. You forward that to me. I actually went over and installed WordPress and all the plugins to get him up and going. And then I give you a free month at the School of Podcasting. And like Troy said, any questions he had that. And what do you know? Within a couple days, Troy had a podcast up. Now, if you already have a website, then just come over and use the coupon code LISTENER, and that'll give you a big chunk off your first month at the School of Podcasting. And I always say, come for the education, stay for the community. So want to thank you so much for tuning in. Let me remind you that, live today like it's your last one. Live tomorrow like it's your first, and don't ever let your problems bring out your worst. Don't ever take your mind off whatever is your goal. Be true to yourself and follow your soul. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you again real soon with another episode of the School of Podcasting's Morning Announcements. Take care, God bless, and I hope to see you on the inside. Class is dismissed.